Previously on Just BS Woodworking.
Very damp floor in the front room, daylight underneath. This is all rotten wood juice.
So thanks to 25 years of neglect and poor building practice, my house was ruined. So after a year of rebuilding from the ground up, I had an empty room which I needed to turn into a home office for my new job. I started by creating a set of drawers for the left-hand side and a standy thing for the right-hand side. Installed the world's heaviest ash countertop as a desktop and built some plywood carcasses that didn't really fit without the assistance of a hammer. Lots of hammer. Which brings us right up to now. In the last video we got to this stage, which I said was kind of near the end. What I've realised since then is that I've got a lot to do. In this video, you're going to see me attempt to make a face frame for this whole thing, install shelves with pins and electronics and lighting, install the ornaments that make it look pretty, and then it's an office in T-minus 4 days. 4 days. And there's at least 2 days worth of painting in there. So we best crack on. Let's go. With the main structure in place, my job was to take some measurements, but these measurements were going to give me a headache. They had to be incredibly accurate, which is not something I'm known for, and they also had to cater to the fact that the walls are not square, or plumb, or whatever you call it. Just to show you why I struggled in the last video actually getting this thing in, not only do the walls come inwards, my left panel is 1586, my middle one is 1582, my right one is 1576. That's quite the drop off, 10 mil across the whole ceiling. And this is why you do a face frame. So the professionals say on their YouTube videos, I don't really know what I'm doing. In this shot you can see just how out of plumb these walls are. Now some of the walls we had replastered, some of the walls have got new plasterboard on, but it's really just cobbled together. And I did a lot of the work, so I can't even comment. Right, predicament time. What does the human eye notice most? Because it's that far out the bottom, which means I'm going to have to take off 15 mil from the top. Will the human eye notice that my face frame is pretty much a triangle more than if I take the pencil out and put my face frame skew-if? This week in highly advanced woodworking techniques with Just BS, we masking tape a block of wood to a pencil. Join every week for more tips like this. The block of wood was required because that wall was so out of plumb I couldn't just run the pencil alongside it, and I didn't have a big enough washer to do it either. So this helped me get a scribe line because I'm sitting on the fence. I've decided that I'm going to do a mixture of both tactics. Yes, this is not going to line up perfectly with the spirit level, but it's also not going to be triangular. I'm trying to trick the eye rather than the spirit level. After running back and forth to the garage a little bit and using the belt sander to bring the wood to that scribe line, I was pretty happy with the end result. Most of that gap is pretty much closed up, nothing that can't be fixed with a lick of paint, and oh yes, happy. So after getting my eye in on that left hand side, it was just a case of back and forth to the garage, cutting pieces to length to fit between, scribing the right hand wall, scribing to the ceiling as well, which proved to be a bit of a tricky task, but I just needed lots of lengths of this cheap B&Q timber. Now I don't really like it because it's finger jointed, I believe, and it's made up of lots of little lengths, but this is going to be painted, so I'm hoping with the paint on you won't see a single join. Because I was travelling back to the garage and then back indoors, I had to put a lot of faith in my measurements, and once I'd cut all the pieces I had to basically play adult Lego, and It was kind of adult Lego and kind of Jenga, trying to balance all these pieces in place, making sure everything fit before I went to glue it and screw it all together. I may have dropped it a few times, I may have chipped some of the paintwork, but the amount of damage I've done installing that ash countertop, all the paint needs redoing anyway. Yay! Okay, another dilemma on this project that I have got no experience of working on is the face frame. I've got all my parts cut, everything seems to fit snugly. Now I know you're supposed to assemble a face frame as one big unit, pocket hole screws, glue, bring it in, bit of glue, brad nail the whole thing. But I'm working on my own, which makes things difficult. I haven't got a lot of room to assemble the whole face frame, then paint it, then install it. The easier thing to do would be installing each individual piece, fill in any gaps with some filler. But it's the easy thing to do, the right thing to do. I'm so unqualified for this. And once again on this project, I decided to sit on the fence and do a combination of the two things I mentioned. I didn't have enough space to work with one whole face frame, so I decided to split it up into two parts. This had its downsides but did work overall. Now I was going to be using glue to hold everything together long term, but I needed the pocket holes to kind of clamp the glue joints in the short term. Now about the only thing in my life I can rely on for being perfectly flat is my workbench. So I used my workbench to clamp everything together whilst I glued, pocket screwed it all into place. Now I had to do this in small sections because I've got a small workbench. So I built the face frame as a left side and a right side, got everything sanded while it was a manageable size, and then later glued it all together. The beauty of doing it in the sections is that I could keep bringing them in and test fitting them, making sure that as I'd screwed I'd not brought everything out of square and that everything still lined up. Happy with the fit on the left hand side, it was over to the right hand side. I built the frame as one and left a little bit of wiggle room just in case anything needed trimming down. And I'm glad I did leave some wiggle room because it didn't need trimming down. In fact, it was the perfect fit. And I'm talking millimetre perfect. Something that I'd love to say I did on purpose, but like I said, I tried to leave some wiggle room. But no, it lined up beautifully, and now it was just time to attach everything together. I'm not going to make you watch me paint the whole thing. I just want you to know how miserable this makes me. I may have mentioned it in another video once or twice, but I hate painting. While the paint was drying up on my face frame, I decided to switch gears. Now, the shelving you've seen in the previous clips, that's not the only shelving I plan on having. In fact, I still haven't decided how much shelving I want. But for now, I'm going to build some floating shelves that are just going to sit on little brass pins. Now, I'm going to go basic with these. I'm just using the raw plywood, and I'll just give it a little bit of a wood dye and a bit of a wax, and these will just sit inside of the cabinet. Again, I don't know long term how I'm going to use this storage. It's just something I've always liked the look of. So I just trimmed down some shelves to roughly the right width, threw them on the floor so that they're nice and chipped, and then kept repeating the process until I had all of my lengths. If you're wondering what I'm doing, I'm ironing in the garage. Why, where do you do your ironing? I'm not weird, you're weird. Well, I film myself making many mistakes and not really knowing what I'm doing, and then I publish it to YouTube. So I'm weird, but you guys are watching, so welcome to the family. That looked like it hurt. This is the edge banding I'm ironing on, just in case that wasn't clear. Normal dirty plywood. Veneered. Just gonna take a little razor blade. You can get fancy little cutting tools to take it all off, but I haven't got one. I love these built-in storage walls, but one thing that I don't like about them is how uniform some of them can look. everything perfectly square with all the boxes the same size. So I'm trying to mix up with the shelf heights and the type of shelf. So here I'm using a mixture of CA glue and regular glue and some accelerator spray, and just kind of putting together scraps of plywood in a pattern. Now these shelves are going to be different depths and different heights, so I'm just experimenting really, and I'm not wasting any wood because these are all the offcuts from the project itself.
Is this good entertainment and good watching? Tell you what, without clamps, it's pretty tidy.
Now I don't know if I've explained this in the voiceover, but the reason I'm doing this is because I'm actually a bit short on ply. I didn't have enough ply this depth and this length to go all the way across. So I thought, why not use the scraps I've already got to create a little floating shelf like that. There'll be shelf pins under the bottom one and shelf pins under this side, under the top one. So I'm not worried about this providing any structural support. It's mainly there just for looks. I maybe should have pre-finished and waxed it before I did this though. Yes, that would have been wise.
My wife often accuses me of leaving things till the last minute. But I don't agree with that. I've got a good 24 hours before I start my new job tomorrow morning. And all I've got to do is install the face frame, touch up the paintwork, fit the lighting, do the shelf pins, the shelves, move the furniture in, move the computer down. I don't see it being a problem. It's not last minute. I've got a whole day.
For my shelf pins I needed accuracy, and there is no better machine for accuracy than this drill press. So I basically made a little jig just so that I could put all of my shelf pins at equal height. It's just a scrap of ply with a hole in basically. I don't know if I've got a right to call that a jig, but I'm calling it anyway, because in my eyes a jig is a piece of equipment that you spend time making to save time later on, and that's exactly what this did. There was no requirement for a ruler or a tape measure or a spirit level. I just laid this on the shelf underneath it and every pin was going to be the same height. But before I installed my shelves, with the space I still had, I decided to move back to the LED lighting. Now electrician Ben's coming out here. This LED lighting comes with all of the attachments required to basically plug it straight into the mains and it work. However, the mains is a bit of a way away from where my LED strip is, so I'm just using some 12 volt wire in here I had left over from my van conversion. I'm putting it into a little plug, a little socket, pin socket I think they're called, and basically just clamping it all in. This is only 12 volts, so it does not require a qualified electrician. Any dummy can do it, even me. The great thing about these LED strips is you just cut them to the length you want. They've got little cut marks on them and they come with an adhesive tape on the back. Now I did splash out and buy some higher grade LED wiring this time. I've used some cheap stuff in the past and it packs in. The self-adhesive tape is useless, but this stuff's good. It's got 3M adhesive tape on the back that does hold up to time. It also comes with a couple of little clips that you screw in just to provide extra strength. Now I used this in the corners where the wire drops down just to stop the gravity pulling it down. After that I just peeled off the tape and threaded it through those pre-drilled holes I'd made, and soon enough I would have a light. Lighting installed, I installed my floating shelves. They just sit on top of some brass pins that I got off Amazon for quite cheap. They're trend ones, but they were a bargain price. And now was the time for the most important part, the bit I've been waiting for and excited about. I absolutely love the look of these shelves so far, but they look unfinished. Face frames are designed to make something look finished, so I basically took my time, used a sparing amount of glue on all of the exposed pieces of plywood that I'd purposely not painted. I'm going to brad nail this because number one, I don't think you'll see the brad nails all that much because the wood's really dark, and number two, the paint that I'm using is wood, metal and apparently skin paint. I can never get this stuff off me. So once I've put all the brad nails in, I can just then coat over it with a lick of paint. Somebody mentioned in the last video, in fact they pleaded that I paint all the way down to the floor. Now the reason I haven't done that is because in English built homes, the plaster never goes down to the floor. And I know that's the case in most places across the globe, but it isn't the case in every country. But the plaster only ever goes down to about 2 inches off the floor, doesn't bother with the bottom, and then we cover everything with skirting. And that's what I'm doing here. So I cut a length of skirting, treated it, stained it, waxed it to go under the desk. I cut down some smaller strips to go down the side of my computer tower area, and I feel like it just makes everything look that little bit polished off. Now I'm not attaching these in now. You might have noticed there's a cable recess, and until I know exactly where I want my cables, I don't want to attach these.
Hello! It's finished, and I could not be happier. Now, the room itself is not finished. There's not even a door behind you. The light fixture's up, but there's no bulb in it. I haven't got any blinds on the window, so the light glares on my screen. But this part that I designed, built, installed, that's in. And not only is it in, I am in love with it. Now, breaking the timeline a little bit, it's actually been 3 weeks since I started my job. So this has been used every day, and it is so practical. I've got space for my personal computer with space for a laptop over there. I've got more than enough room. I haven't even filled the shelves yet. I don't know what I used to own before we packed away everything in boxes. Everything is holding up. The paint has hardened and is now completely wipeable with a damp cloth. The countertop, the round over, a couple of people worried that I'd left it too sharp and that it was going to chip or rub on my elbows. 3 weeks use, it is bomb-proof. The only thing I've got to do is add the finishing touches to the room. The wiring is all clipped to the underside of the desk using some pipe clips, and everything just works. And the lights. I was only going to originally put one strip at the top, and then I had some left over and I thought, I might put some underneath. Best decision of this whole project. I love the colour. I could talk to you for hours about how much I am pleased with the outcome. And I don't just think it looks good, I think it looks incredible. And I did it for under £1,000. Now that is a sting money-wise for us at the minute. But if you were going to pay somebody to design, build, fit this, multiple thousands. I'm so happy with it. And if you have got anything out of this video, please take the time to like, subscribe, send me a comment, tell me what I've done wrong, tell me what I could do better, tell me what you'd change, whatever. I just appreciate your feedback and I appreciate you watching. Take care. It's not even turned on.